Hey everyone, welcome to the Explainer. I'm so glad you're joining us today. Right now, we're checking the regulatory pulse of an industry that, well, literally thrives on getting under our skin. We're talking about the European Union's REACH tattoo ink regulations. Now, on paper, these restrictions look rock solid, and they are fully enforced. Ink manufacturers are claiming total compliance, and regulators are taking a victory lap on enforcement. But brand new peer-reviewed data from 2026 reveals some massive systemic safety holes. So let's dive right into this, because what we found is a pretty startling paradox between regulatory intent and what's actually happening in real-world science.
Listen to this. The analytical methods used to test tattoo inks are not standardized, not sensitive enough, and not designed for what happens after the ink enters the skin. If you run a tattoo studio and you're watching this explainer, I need to speak directly to you right now. Your client's safety is genuinely at stake here. Those shiny compliance certificates hanging on your shop wall, they might not actually mean what you think they mean.
To understand why, we've got to talk about the number 78. A 2026 Italian study tested 78 commercial tattoo inks. And these are inks that are sitting on studio shelves across the continent right at this very moment. This wasn't just some casual random spot check. This was a rigorous study that totally kicked off our entire deep dive into this issue. It exposed a staggering gap between what regulators think they're measuring and what actual chemists are finding when they look at this stuff on the lab benches.
To make sense of all this, we're going to audit these regulations step by step. First, the illusion of compliance. 2, flawed tests, hidden toxins. 3, the ink degradation problem. 4, the missing clinical proof. 5, the unresolved cancer question. And finally, 6, an action plan for studios.
Section 1. The illusion of compliance, extraction problems.
Okay, so a standardized extraction method is basically a universally agreed upon way to pull substances out of an ink matrix so you can actually test them. And crucially, this currently does not exist anywhere under REACH. Think about what that actually means in the real world. REACH strictly limits heavy metals, right? Things like nickel, chromium, cobalt. But it completely fails to tell labs how they should extract those metals from the ink to do the test in the first place. That Italian study we just mentioned, they used artificial sweat at 37 degrees Celsius to mimic the human body. Makes sense, right? But another lab, they might just use a harsh acid digestion. Another one might test it at room temperature. Some shake the sample up, others don't. Because of this Wild West approach, 2 totally different labs testing the exact same bottle of ink can get completely different results. So your compliance certificate, it's really only as reliable as the specific, totally unregulated method that the lab happened to use that day.
Section 2. Flawed tests, hidden toxins, the sensitivity gap.
Which brings us to a massive failure when it comes to aromatic amines. In case you aren't familiar, these are banned carcinogens. REACH explicitly bans 22 of them. But you guessed it, there's a glaring discrepancy in how we test for them. A lot of the older testing methods rely on something called SIM, or single-ion monitoring. But recently, Korean researchers utilized a newer tandem mass spectrometry method called MRM, multiple reaction monitoring. And this brilliantly and kind of terrifyingly illustrates our second major gap. The newer MRM method catches trace-level carcinogens that the older SIM method completely misses, totally blind to them. Yet, most commercial testing labs out there are still relying on that older SIM method. So if your ink supplier certificate was generated using SIM, there's absolutely no guarantee that trace-level carcinogens aren't just lurking right there in that bottle.
Section 3. The ink degradation problem, a ticking time bomb.
Now this builds into what is probably the most underappreciated flaw in the entire REACH framework. What actually happens to the ink after it enters the human body? Just imagine the lifespan of a red tattoo pigment, based on some incredible recent French research. On day 1, the ink is manufactured, tested, and passes REACH compliance with flying colors. It goes into the skin. Awesome. But fast forward to year 5. Down in the dermis, that ink isn't just sitting there static. It's constantly being exposed to photodegradation from UV sunlight, not to mention enzymatic degradation from the human body itself. By year 10, that perfectly legal, totally safe pigment has degraded, and it's now releasing toxic nanoparticles and soluble breakdown products directly into the bloodstream.
The science is crystal clear on this. Pigments that were completely stable and non-toxic before aging actually become toxic after degradation. REACH only tests ink exactly as it's manufactured in the bottle. It completely and utterly ignores this biological and environmental aging process that happens inside the body. French researchers prove that these breakdown products actually trigger cytotoxicity in skin cells, and this is especially true for red inks just because of their specific chemical structure. A passing grade on day 1 absolutely does not guarantee safety in year 10.
Section 4. The missing clinical proof, allergy outcomes.
Okay, let's take a step back. The whole point of REACH was to reduce allergic reactions, right? That was the big goal. It's been fully enforced since January 2023. So, did it work? Well, a 2026 paper in the Analytical de Dermatology asked that exact question, and the findings? Incredibly frustrating. As you can see, we have sky-high regulatory compliance data. We have absolute mountains of chemistry data from the labs, but the clinical outcome data, the actual proof that allergies have decreased, is virtually zero. There is no centralized European registry tracking patient reactions. There's no baseline clinical comparison from before the ban even started. We literally have endless stacks of compliance paperwork, but the actual tangible proof that clients are safer from allergies, completely missing in action.
Section 5. The unresolved cancer question.
As impartial auditors of this data, we have to address the elephant in the room. Is tattooing associated with an increased risk of cancer? It's a vital question, and honestly, it's one clients are asking louder than ever before.
The scientific data here is super nuanced, so we have to weigh two completely different types of evidence. First, you've got epidemiological evidence. That's looking at large populations of people. A massive meta-analysis of over 140,000 people actually resulted in inconclusive findings regarding cancer. But here is the crucial context you need. Cancer has a latency period of about 20 to 30 years, while tattooing has really only been mainstream for about 20 years. We simply aren't in the chronological window to detect a population-level signal yet. We just don't have enough time on the clock. On the flip side, we have toxicological evidence. This is looking closely at cells in a lab. And those cellular tests absolutely prove that pigments cause biological damage. We are talking heavily documented oxidative stress, inflammatory pathway activation, and apoptosis, which is literal cell death. So we know for a fact that pigments cause cellular damage. We just don't know yet if that directly translates to increased clinical cancer rates in human beings over time.
Section 6. Action Plan for Studios, the New Standard. Now, I know the reality of this data might seem super overwhelming, maybe even a little scary, but it's actually an empowering opportunity for industry professionals. It's your chance to elevate your standards way beyond a flawed baseline. So here is your actionable checklist. First, demand clarity from your suppliers. Don't just accept a generic piece of paper. Ask them outright if they use MRM testing for aromatic amines, and ask exactly what extraction method they use for heavy metals. Second, document everything. Build your own evidence base by rigorously recording any delayed adverse reactions in your clients, paying special attention to those red inks. Third, adjust your informed consent forms. Be completely 100% transparent with your clients about the current scientific unknowns regarding cancer and long-term allergies. True transparency is what actually builds real, lasting trust.
Which brings us to our final thought today. Will your studio just rely on an incomplete certificate, or are you going to demand true transparency for your clients? The regulations might have gaps, but your standards definitely don't have to. Empower yourself with this science, ask the hard questions, and keep demanding better. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember, keep digging deeper.